I think Joker is amazing. Joaquin Phoenix's performance is incredible, the soundtrack is beautifully haunting, the directing and writing are fantastic, the cinematography is beautiful, but this video isn't a review. Instead, I want to give my take on the film and the evidence the film provides for it. So as you could probably guess, spoilers for Joker from here on out. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend seeing it. Not because I loved it, but because this is a very divisive film, and I think everyone should make their own opinions on it. So, I'm sure this isn't an original theory, but I thought of it, and I stumbled across a lot of evidence for it during my second viewing of the movie, so here goes. I don't think any of the film really happened, at least not exactly the way we saw it, except one scene. And that scene is the final scene of the movie, where Arthur is in Arkham talking to a psychologist. He laughs and says he thought of a joke, but refuses to tell it to the psychologist, saying, "You wouldn't get it." Then he starts singing "That's Life" as the song plays. The scene cuts and Arthur is walking out of the room he was just in, with blood on his shoes and pant legs, leaving a trail of bloody footsteps down the hall. The last thing we see is one of the other Arkham workers chasing Arthur down. I believe that one take on this movie is that this is the only real scene in the film. And here's my evidence. In the very famous graphic novel, The Killing Joke, Joker said,
"If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice."
I think this film is just one of those multiple choices. But I think this is one of the fake ones that Joker made up, and here's why. One complaint the movie has been getting quite a bit is that this Joker doesn't feel like comic book Joker. Arthur is very reactive in this film, and Joker is usually very proactive. Arthur reacts to those Wall Street guys making fun of him by killing them. Because of his actions, he unwittingly creates a movement that results in hundreds of people in clown masks and makeup protesting and eventually rioting. Although Arthur seems pleased that the movement exists, he doesn't take ownership of it, but instead continues with his life, eventually going on the Murray Franklin show in clown makeup, which he claims is not related to the movement. Then he's rescued by the rioters, seemingly by accident, and they adopt him as their face. People were mad that he didn't seem to plan any of it. Comic book Joker is usually planning 3 steps ahead, and in this situation would have probably planned the whole thing from the start. He would have actively sought out those Wall Street guys and killed them as a way to start a movement, and then he would have claimed ownership of that movement and led the riots himself. I think my theory could solve this problem. Arthur is very much the victim in this movie. He feels that society has left him by the wayside, and he is the product of society's treatment of him. At the beginning of the film, those kids beat him up and break his sign for seemingly no reason. That leads to his boss accusing him of stealing the sign. Then, one of his colleagues gives him a gun, which he later denies giving to him. Arthur drops that gun at a children's hospital during another gig and loses his job. Meanwhile, the city cuts funding to the program he was a part of to get therapy and medication. Through the whole film, it feels like the world is beating down on Arthur. This is exactly what the Joker wants to believe. The Joker is always making himself the victim of his own story. He doesn't want to believe that he's some special case, that there was something wrong with him that caused him to be this way. No, he wants to believe that he could be anyone. He believes that if you hurt someone enough, if you strip away everything they hold dear and put enough pressure on them, they will snap just like he did. He believes that just one bad day could turn anyone into him. Otherwise, he's just crazy, and that makes him feel alone. If this film really is just a backstory Joker made up, that makes complete sense. In Joker's twisted mind, he was just a poor soul who was beaten down until he snapped. Joker wants to believe that he is a victim of circumstance, that if any other random Gothamite were in his shoes, they would do the same thing. That's what he tries and fails to prove in The Killing Joke.
I've demonstrated there's no difference between me and everyone else. All it takes is one bad day. That's how far the world is from where I am. Just one bad day.
That's the joke that Joker's always laughing at. Wouldn't it be funny if everyone was wrong about him? Wouldn't it be funny if he really was just a product of circumstance? Wouldn't it be funny if he was right? That is the crux of my theory, but throughout the rest of the movie, I found little subtleties that seemed to add credence to the idea that the Joker made it all up. Some of these might be a little bit more of a stretch than others, but bear with me. The first one I noticed was when Arthur is hunched over his clown shoes, pulling with all his strength to stretch them. Wouldn't it be funny if a clown's big floppy shoes were too small? Another one that an argument could be made for is when the kids steal Arthur's sign and beat him up. It's mentioned in the film, but why would kids steal a sign and beat up a clown? Doesn't make sense. Wouldn't it be funny if some kids stole a street clown's sign and beat him up for no reason? Wouldn't it be funny if that set off a chain of events that made that clown go insane? Another one that others have pointed out, and I also noticed, was that it seems if all the clocks in the movie are set to 11:11. I only noticed this once, when there was supposed to have been an hour that passed, but the clock didn't change. I can't confirm that all the clocks are set to 11:11 throughout the whole movie, but it does seem that way. The last one I noticed, but I'm sure there are more, is after he kills Murray and the camera zooms out to show multiple screens with multiple news channels covering what just happened. All of the screens are showing either footage of Joker on the Murray Franklin show, footage of the riots in the streets, or news anchors talking about what happened. Except for one. One little screen near the top has an old Energizer Bunny ad running.
Nothing outlasts the Energizer. They keep going and going.
Stop the bunny, please.
And going.
Wouldn't it be funny if one channel out of all the channels in Gotham was playing an Energizer ad instead of the breaking news? Again, I'll admit some of those are a bit of a stretch. They could just be little bits of humor added in by the creators, but if my theory is correct, they could also be little things that the Joker finds funny in his own twisted way and snuck into his fake backstory. There's also the possibility that some of the events are true and Joker is just embellishing. Or it's entirely possible that this is the real backstory. At the end of the day, we just don't know. And that's impressive. I will say, I don't think the filmmakers believe in my theory. I think Todd Phillips and his crew put in a lot of elements to make the film questionable so that there could be a lot of potential takes on the film, but I don't think my specific take is the one they prescribe to. But I could be proven wrong in 5 years when Todd finally cracks and gives us his take. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. One other thing I noticed that is very Joker-y, but doesn't necessarily add to or detract from my theory, is that Arthur fixates on Zazie Beetz' character and imagines her becoming his girlfriend. Like many children with good parents, I grew up on Batman the Animated Series, and one of my favorite episodes of that show is called Joker's Favor. In that episode, we follow our main character named Charlie Collins as he's driving down the Gotham highway after having quite a bad day. One car comes up behind him and cuts him off. That ends up being the straw that broke the camel's back, and Charlie gets so mad that he drives up beside the car that cut him off, rolls down his window, and proceeds to shout angrily at the driver. Then, as the driver turns to look at Charlie, he realizes that the man he's been shouting at is the Joker. He tries to run away, but Joker follows him and is not happy that Charlie yelled at him like that. As repayment, Joker says Charlie owes him a favor, and he lets Charlie go.
Righty. Oh, chuckers. Here's the deal. I'll let you off if you promise to do a little favor for me.
Oh, okay. What?
I don't know. I haven't thought of it yet. You just toddle on back to your mundane, meaningless little life, and when I need you, I'll call. Fair? Good. Great. I'll be in touch.
Charlie takes his family and leaves Gotham, changing his name and everything to try to get out of this favor. 2 years later, he gets a call, and it's the Joker calling in his favor. Charlie asks how Joker found him, and Joker says he never lost him. He kept tabs on his little favor until he needed to call it in. This is the perfect example of how Joker will randomly fixate on people, and that's exactly what Arthur does with Sophie, Zazie Beetz' character. Arthur and Sophie share a little moment in the elevator of the apartment building they both live in, and Arthur immediately fixates on her, following her one day, imagining her as his girlfriend, and eventually visiting her in her apartment after a bad day. Again, this doesn't really add to or detract from my theory, but I noticed it and it very much reminded me of the Joker. Well, that's my theory. What do you think? Did my theory win you over? Did you like the Joker? Do you have a movie or a topic you'd like me to talk about? Let me know in the comments, and as always, if you'd like more videos like this, please like, subscribe, and bell icon. Look forward to a Star Wars video very soon, and I'll see you all then.